Today's recipe calls for sprinkles. I'm going to show you how to make really easy and basic Christmas cookies. These things come together really quick and they're really simple to make. So grab your ugly sweaters and let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit while we get our cookie dough ready. The next thing we're going to do is get all of our dry ingredients ready. When you're baking, you always want to spoon and level out all of your dry ingredients. It's really important to do this because if you don't, you're going to end up with too much of one ingredient, which will throw off the entire recipe. This is the best method to measure out your dry ingredients besides using weight or grams to measure out your dry ingredients. So always spoon in your flour into your measuring device and level it out with a knife. Then we'll add the rest of our flour to our medium-sized mixing bowl. So in the end, in your bowl, you should have 2 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Next, we'll add half a teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. You can also use kosher salt for this. It'll work the same. Once you have all of your dry ingredients in your mixing bowl, you're gonna lightly whisk your face off to bring everything together. The next thing we're gonna do is add 2 sticks of room temperature unsalted butter to the bowl of a stand mixer that has the paddle attachment on. You're going to turn your speed on low. This will break up the butter before we add the sugar to cream the butter and sugar together. Now that your butter has been broken up a little bit, the next thing we're going to add to our bowl is 1 1/2 cups of granulated sugar. You're going to cream your butter and sugar together for about 5 to 6 minutes or until your butter becomes nice and fluffy and airy and opaque in color. I like to leave the stand mixer running while I add my sugar. This makes it a whole lot easier. You're going to start off on low speed, and then a few seconds in, you're going to turn your speed up to about medium. Then halfway through the creaming process, you're going to stop mixing everything and give your bowl and paddle attachment a good scrape. This will help ensure that everything gets nice and well creamed together. You want to scrape the sides of your bowl, and it's really important to scrape the bottom of your bowl as well to get any of that butter and sugar off of the bottom. It's really important to do that step on a stand mixer because the way they're made, stuff is notorious for sticking to the bottom of the bowl. Now that you've given your bowl a good scrape down, go ahead and kick back on your mixing device and continue creaming the butter and sugar together. The next thing we're going to add to our mixing bowl is 1 large room temperature egg. And it's best to crack your egg on a flat surface. This will help prevent you from getting any eggshells with your egg. It's also best practice to crack your egg in a separate bowl. This way if you do get eggshells, you can pick it out a lot easier. You're going to mix your egg with your butter and sugar for about 2 to 3 minutes or until everything is nice and well incorporated together. You can mix this on low to medium speed. The next thing we're going to add to our mixing bowl is 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then we're going to also add 1 teaspoon of almond extract. The almond extract will complement the vanilla extract really well. We're going to mix in our extracts for about a minute or so before we add our dry ingredients. It's also important to give your bowl one last final scrape down before we add our dry ingredients. Now that everything is nice and well mixed together, we're going to start spooning in our dry ingredients. And I made a rookie mistake and added my mixer on too high, so you want to turn it down to low speed while you add your dry ingredients. We're going to add half of our dry ingredients first and get that decently mixed in. You don't want to over mix it at this point. Then you're going to crank your speed up to about medium and then turn it right back down so we can spoon in the last half of our dry ingredients. Then eventually you're going to ditch the spoon and just pour the rest of your flour right in. Now that you have all of your dry ingredients in your mixing bowl, feel free to turn your mixer on to about medium speed and mix all of your flour into your dough. Then feel free to stop and give your bowl another good scrape, and especially scrape the bottom of your bowl to ensure there's no flour on the bottom. You're going to mix everything together until you can't see any more flour. It should take about 2 to 3 minutes, give or take. Once you can't see flour, you want to go ahead and kill the power to your mixer. You don't want to overwork your dough. Overworking it will activate the gluten in the flour, which in turn will make your cookies really hard and turn them into hockey pucks. And nobody wants to break a tooth before Christmas, because I don't think anybody wants to ask Santa for new teeth. Now that you have a cookie dough, we're going to clean off our paddle attachment. You can use a rubber spatula for this. I find it easier to just use my ball catcher and my little fingies to do this. And ensure that you get all the cookie dough off of your paddle attachment. This way we're not going to waste any of that delicious goodness batter, and it'll be a whole lot easier to clean later. I also recommend that you rinse your paddle attachment after you clean it off. This will help rinse off any of the cookie dough that's left behind, which in turn will make it a lot easier to clean later instead of the cookie dough
dough getting crusty and hard on our paddle attachment. In the end, your cookie dough should stick really well together. It shouldn't be dry, nor should it be really sticky. It should look something like this. Next, we're going to start to make our cookies. So grab yourself a half sheet tray that's been lined with parchment paper, a teaspoon measuring device, and start to ball your cookies. You're going to scoop the cookie dough into teaspoon-sized cookies. Once you have it measured out, you're going to grab it and make it into a small cookie dough ball and dip it in some sanding sprinkles. You can use any colors that you want, but of course this is Christmas cookies, so I kept it with the green and red. And I found using the teaspoon to measure out our cookie dough is really monotonous and a real pain, so I used a kitchen scale. It came out to 4 ounces of dough. So yeah, use a kitchen scale, it'll go a lot faster and be a whole lot easier. I only dip my cookie dough balls on one side. They're gonna spread in the oven, so if you want your cookies to be completely covered in sprinkles, feel free to roll the entire cookie ball in sprinkles. And later on, I ended up doing half of the dough ball in green and the other half in red, which makes a pretty cool cookie in the end. And it's best to leave about 2 to 3 inches in between each cookie dough ball, because when they go to bake they're going to spread, and we don't want to make one giant cookie. Even though that'd be really cool, that's not what we're going for today. Then burn through and do this same exact method for the rest of your cookie dough. Now that we have a full sheet tray of cookie dough, we're going to grab it and throw it in our preheated oven. We're going to throw our half sheet tray on the middle rack of our oven for the best result. Now that our cookies are in the oven, we're going to set a timer for 6 minutes. I found this to be the perfect time. It all depends on where you live and how hot your oven runs, so you may need to do more or less time. Test bake a few cookies and see what you need to do. Now that our timer has gone off, we'll pull our cookies out of the oven. Now that they're out of the oven, we're going to let them cool on the half sheet tray for about 2 to 3 minutes. Now that the 2 to 3 minutes is up, we're going to transfer over our cookies to a cooling rack to let them cool the rest of the way before we eat them. Then we're going to line our half sheet tray with some more dough balls and bake the rest of our dough off. Grab your favorite plate and start to line it with your cookies. You can set them up any way you want. I went red, green to get that sweet Christmas vibe, and then grab a note that says for Santa, so nobody even thinks about trying to eat them because they're for Santa, okay? So don't even try.
Alright, now that our cookies are done, let's give them the old taste-a-roo. They came out looking really good. They got that Christmas vibe going for them with the red and the green. These ones are probably my favorite because they got the 2 different colors, 2 different sprinkles on them. Get that extra Christmas vibe to them. They're so precious because they're all small, which some people would say that, but yeah, anyways. Let's give them the old taste-a-roo. That fat boy they call Santa is really lucky he gets to try these cookies because these things came out super delicious. The texture on them is perfect. The outside is nice and crunchy, but the center is still nice and soft and chewy. It's the perfect balance between the 2 textures. Then flavor-wise, there's a nice hint of the almond extract and a nice hint of the vanilla extract that play really well together and really add a lot of flavor to these cookies. And they're not too sweet, so it's just right on the sweetness as well. Overall, these things came out so delicious, that old lucky Santa. Alright, that's it for today's video. This recipe is really simple and there's not a whole lot to it. And you can pretty much make these cookies any way you want. You can take out the almond extract and add some peppermint extract, then maybe sprinkle some crushed peppermint candies on top to give it more of a Christmas vibe, or you can keep it super basic like I did. This is a perfect recipe to do with the kids because it's really simple and it could be a lot of fun for them. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go figure out my wish list for Santa. Hopefully he forgives me for calling him that fat boy, because I really want that Barbie Power Wheel. So we'll see you on the next one. Today's recipe calls for sprinkles. I'm gonna show you how to make really easy Christmas cookies. These things come together really quack. To it. Yeah, these things came out really great. What else am I gonna say? Really well together. Then Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And I'm gonna go figure out my Christmas list and my wish list and the same thing. Man, I look so fresh in my Christmas vest. Like, pose. So good.